I said, I'm gonna leave that alone. Let them get it off.
My God, David, Black Unity News in the building. So
Yes,
good to see you,
sir.
my brother.
Oh, okay.
Always a pleasure. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. I see it up there. Okay, cool. Good evening, good evening, everybody. We want to welcome you to the Black Professional Men's General Body Meeting. It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. We're here as we do every month for Black professional men to ensure the future of the African American male. And the way that we do that is by being and impacting the community. And tonight is going to be no different. We have a great panel of just some phenomenal gentlemen that are doing some outstanding things in the community. So we thought that we would kind of bring them in to be able to talk about our topic that we're going to have this evening, which is conflict in the community, from chaos to solutions. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're going to open up in prayer, and then we're going to have everybody come around and have everybody introduce themselves. And then I'm going to play 2 short videos before we get started. And so if y'all don't mind, we will open up in the word of prayer, and then we will actually get started. So Minister Borden, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Leroy.
Would you mind opening us up in prayer, sir?
Sure, not a problem. All hearts and minds are clear tonight. Father God, we come before you today to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for all of your many blessings you bestowed upon us today. Thank you for your prosperity you've given us, the safety and travel, just being able to come back to our homes as we left them. Bless our families, Lord. Bless the doors you opened up, the business networks that you allowed us to have, and even close some doors that we didn't need to go through. We ask that you put everybody on the same heart and mind for this meeting. Allow something to be birthed in the spirit. Allow somebody's mind to be open and refreshed when it comes to networking and business and just learning how to impact the youth that we're dealing with and trying to make a change. We give you praise, honor, and glory in everything that we do. Amen.
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 So we want to welcome everybody. We want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And we're going to start off as we usually do. We're just going to go around and give a 30 to 60-second introduction of who we are in the organization, and then or just who you are as an individual and everything like that. And then we will, then we'll go into the rest of the itinerary or agenda for this evening. I'll start with myself. My name is Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. I've been involved with Black professional men for a number of years, but it is being the events coordinator or the monthly events coordinator, just trying to continue what was started some 31 years ago now, which has really been phenomenal, what the founders have gotten here. So that's just a little bit about me. How about we'll start with the top row. Shadid, I'll start with you, and then I'll go over to Brother Cliff.
Okay, Shadid Laser, Maryland-based, full-time entrepreneur, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses alumni, as well as serve as the one of the program ambassadors for the program. My focus is developing intellectual property and licensing it to corporations, universities, and agencies. Also serve as the youngest chapter chair of SCORE Greater Baltimore in the United States, and also serve as partnership chair for Black professional men.
Absolutely. Man, you're doing a lot. You wear a lot of hats. Brother Cliff, you want to introduce yourself to everyone again?
All right. I am Brother Cliff. Everybody knows me as Cliff Kaumba or Brother Cliff, and some people have other names for me when they're angry. I am the Maryland State Facilitator of the 6th Region Diaspora Caucus. It's an international Pan-African organization. I also have a website, KaumbaReport.com. I also, as you might have heard already, talking to Brother Five Star, do a little music here and there. And I guess that'll do for now. Oh, and I'm also building what we're calling the Maryland Pan-African Cooperative Coalition, which I'll possibly have a chance to talk about a little later.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Brother DJ 5 Star, we know who you are, but you can just kind of still tell everybody who you are.
I'm just a humble servant, my brother. I'm so proud of you, Dr. Leroy. I am Kendrick Tillman here in this hat. I serve as the vice president of Black Professional Men, and I just want to tell you, I love you guys, man. Like, I've been looking for gentlemen all my life, and who knew that this organization just turned 31 years old this year? 31. I'm only 41. I mean, I was 10 when this organization was started, and it's just amazing to see how many shoulders I stand on that's affiliated. And really, my mission in life is to close the gaps, and whether those gaps be cultural, educational, happens to be my favorite. For those that know me with our Math Through Music and the coding kits, I love closing the gaps for education, but I also love closing the gaps on entrepreneurships. With entrepreneurs, I serve as the president of the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce. And so any of those entrepreneurs outside of my voice, just please, man, please, sir, get involved. The answer to who ain't got to be you. The goal of entrepreneurship is not to create a job for yourself. Have a team, have a network, and that's what BPM is. We have been this NASCAR business model for so long. So thank you for Mr. Shadid, who's been managing all of these partnerships that allow us to help people accomplish so many goals and overcome so many challenges through a network that we've just created and developed and nurtured, most importantly, nurtured over these decades that this great organization is available. I also serve as the president of the Baltimore County African American Cultural Festival. So put that on your calendar. It's always the third Saturday in September, September the 17th. So we ask you all to come to a free event to the courthouse where you can get live entertainment and vendors. When the last time you went to the courthouse and had a great time? Don't worry, I'll wait. Absolutely. So third Saturday, September 17th, put that on your calendar. I actually see it on your background, Leroy. It says it's our link tree right there, the Baltimore County African American Cultural Fest, right there behind you on your screen. And with that, I will digress because I'm just here to love on you guys, you gentlemen, you kings, I love you.
And the man in the middle, it just made me think about Hollywood Squares. You know how you had that one, the superstar that's sat in the middle. Well, that's this man right here, brother David. I don't know. Words just can't even express the gratitude that I have for him, the appreciation that I have, the admiration that I have for him, all that he's doing. So, brother David, you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, my name is David Murphy. I'm one of the founding members of Black Men Unifying Black Men. I'm also sit on the board of Maryland Council of Elders. I also publish the National Black Unity News. I build websites. I network, and just to date my age a little bit, with this great organization, I was around when they were in the inception of it, when they was forming this, and I'm so pleased, because we start a lot of things, but sometimes we don't finish. And this Black Professional Men is still going strong, so I'm so appreciative of that. They still had the brothers on the front line doing what you're doing. All right, back to you, brother.
Thank you. And next, the gentleman, Mr. President, you want to introduce yourself?
How you doing? I am Hassan Diggs. I have the privilege of joining this organization in 2013. And I'm gonna tell you, the first time I came into the room is the same kind of feeling I have right now, where it's like you see in the professional environment, most times you may be the only person there as a Black man. And to be able to come into a room and everybody looks like you, but not only do they look like you, they want to make you better. It's just an incredible feeling of love and just cooperation that we get. We always say iron sharpens iron, and sometimes it gets hot. So now the thing that I like, what was the other task? What would you like to accomplish, or what was the
It was just to introduce yourself right now. And
yeah, so the thing I like to focus on is helping people accomplish their goals. And Kendrick and I, since we've been in our positions, we've been working to develop a series of resources and tools that everybody can use to kind of get ahead. And so as the president, I figured that I would go ahead and go out and take one for the team and try to utilize those goals. And I'm just so excited to be able to say that, you know, this week we got our building permit for our first production location for Blondie's Donuts. And Blondie's Donuts started 2019 from a BPM event, Hire Black Baltimore. And, you know, it's a long story behind it, but, you know, it started here. So I feel that it's only fitting that I share that growth here, you know, with you brothers.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome. Awesome news to hear. And it is, Blondie's Donuts is growing in leaps and bounds, man. It's just that's awesome. That is so awesome to hear, bro. That's cool. Let's drop down. We'll go with Brother Rashad. Are you there? I don't know.
Wait a minute, one second. Can y'all hear my applause? I was trying to play the applause for that.
No, I know I didn't hear it.
Nah.
I don't know if anybody else did.
Nah, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't hear no applause?
I guess we'll have to create our own.
I know, right?
I'm in the downstairs studio, so I would have just, you know, hit it for you.
I heard something just now, though.
Oh, you did? Okay, then.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, Brother Rashad, come on up. Come on and take the mic. Grab the mic, brother.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rashad Holloway. I serve as the BPM treasurer. I also serve as the Rays of Hope Scholarship Lead as well for our scholarship program here at BPM, in which we provide scholarships, enrichment, programming and enrichment opportunities for high school students, both freshmen and seniors that are entering, well, the seniors are entering college next year. Here at BPM, I also assist with the book club, and I think we'll talk about the book, this month's book as well. And just happy to be in the room with other members and sharing this great organization with others.
Cool. We appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Minister Boardley, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Leroy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. You want to introduce
Minister
yourself?
Brian Boardley, Minister of Wellness for BPM. Currently running One More, One Less mentoring. Got a program called Operation Waterways Environmental Education, trying to change the trajectory of youth in Baltimore City and Maryland to raise 20% minorities into national resources within the next 10 years. Currently, we're in Baltimore City, Parks and Recs, various schools. We're about to move our program south to various locations in different states. And I'm about to start Operation Take Flight Academy, which will teach kids how to become personal pilots. And after they achieve 1,500 hours, they can go to commercial airlines.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. That is awesome stuff. That is awesome stuff. So this is actually what
dope.
we, you know, are here tonight. Let me do this real quick, and then I'm going to play these two really quick videos. But just to give everybody who might not be familiar, or those that are watching and who may watch the replay, a little bit of information about Black Professional Men. Black Professional Men, Inc., or BPM, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based here in Baltimore, started in 1991. So that's what we heard today. We turned 31 years old this year. BPM members serve as mentors and as role models for young African-American men primarily in and around the Baltimore metro region. Its members are also active in other mentoring programs, conduct speaking engagements across the state, and serve on nonprofit boards aimed at helping develop the African American community. We attempt to instill a sense of pride in our mentees to be strong African American men. We work to make positive changes in their lives, both in school and in the community, in an effort to prepare to take advantage of life's opportunities and what they will encounter. So that's just a little bit about who we are as Black professional men. And I want to show this one. I'm gonna show just the one video if I can. You said I was able to share. Hope I can. Shadid, I might need your help here because the video is not coming up in my share screen.
I will play this one.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go with one.
Disturbing information. Kelsey, thank you very much. Now let's get out to Annie Rose Ramos. Annie Rose, the person who shot 4 people in East Baltimore, still on the run tonight. What can you tell us?
Well, Vic, on North Rose Street today, a shooter took their assault rifle and shot more than 60 times into that street, killing 1 and injuring 3 others. Now, the police commissioner, he called this a brazen act of violence and cowardice. But Vic, the people who live in that neighborhood tell me you simply cannot ask people to stop shooting because they won't. A beautiful Baltimore day cut short by gunfire. You can hear the dozens of gunshots on this Nest camera from a half-mile away.
Shooting indiscriminately down a street, hitting anyone and everyone.
Police say just after 1:30, a shooter walked onto North Rose Street in East Baltimore and opened fire.
Armed with an assault rifle, who turned and fired multiple rounds, what we believe right now is above 60 rounds.
I actually heard every shot, and when I came around here, it was still smoking at.
The shots killing a 25-year-old man, injuring a 27-year-old woman and man, along with a 40-year-old man who police say got to the hospital on their own.
And every day they kill their people. Every single day.
I've never heard that many shots before.
Stanley Holland has lived in this neighborhood for over 40 years, but this shooting reminded him of his time in war while serving in Vietnam.
I heard shots like, you know, when I was in the service, and it sounded like an automatic weapon, you know, that many shots. A lot of kids play in that bar.
For those living in McElderry Park, shootings are a part of life here.
You can't just tell them to stop shooting. They're not going to stop. You got to go to these guys and say, why are you shooting? He's going to say, because they just shot my brother down the street.
This is all you see. You're growing up in it. Some people think it's the right thing to do.
As police plead for those who saw something to speak up.
They will do it to anyone. They will do it to their friends. They will do it to their own family members. And to protect them is not only a crime, it's a sin.
Now tonight, Vic, police are still searching for this shooter. They are desperate for any information. They believe someone saw something. And you can make an anonymous tip through Metro Crime Stoppers. That information and contact phone number is on our website. Reporting live, I'm Annie Rose Ramos for WJZ.
Gentlemen, I saw this the other day and I thought it was kind of tied into what we were going to be talking about tonight. So I need to bring that video up to start the conversation that we're going to be having this evening. Our topic, as we talked about, is conflict in the community, from chaos to solutions. 31 years ago, there were a group of men that came together and they went to our then mayor and said, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about things such as we just saw? And he said, what am I going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And that was the birthing of what we are 31 years now later, we still have as Black professional men. It was a creation to resolve or to bring some solutions to what's ailing our city, what's in our city, what's going on in our city. We have some phenomenal things going on with us. We all know within us that we're doing as Black professional men, as the other brothers that are on here too. But we also know that we have some issues that we have to deal with. And I truly believe that what the things that I know that each of us are doing individually and collectively are part of those solutions. So I wanted to bring those tonight and talk about them. But before we get into that and before we bring our first speaker up, I do want to have Brother Rashad, if he's there, to talk about the book club, because reading is part of that solution. Because the more educated we are, the more we educate our community, the better off we can be. And I had this challenge, I believe I said it here as well, but I've been saying it all year, that if you read 20 pages a day for a year, just 20 pages a day, you will have read 30 books in a year. 30 books. The average person only reads one book a year. So can you imagine if you're reading 30 books versus someone else? And if we put that emphasis into our community and about reading and making it a priority. So Brother Rashad, you want to come and talk a little bit about the book club if you can, and the book that we're reading?
Sure, Leroy. The current book is The Road to Your Best Stuff 2.0. That's by Mike Williams. Mike Williams is famous for helping or assisting in the career of motivational speaker Les Brown. The book club meets every first Saturday at 10 a.m. We have one session left in this current. We have the June session left. And also we'll start back in September. But The Road to Your Best Stuff basically is a book, a help book that whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're not an entrepreneur, it kind of asks the question for you to basically take inventory of yourself, looking at where you spiritually, mentally, and physically in your life. And I mentioned this gentleman. He redid the book, the original book, but he was the driving force of Speaker Les Brown. And Les Brown, if you're a Les Brown fan, Les Brown talks about him a lot in some of his speeches, and how he kind of helped Les Brown to grow as a motivational speaker.
Absolutely. And I did have, in addition to that one, and maybe, I don't know if it'll be next month or not, maybe we can put it on the list, but I'm reading this now, got this out of the library. It's called, it's John Maxwell's Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. But it's a good book. I'm just about a third of the way done with it, but I'm reading this now too, along with a couple other books. But I thought this one might be good for the list, so I'll send you this so you can take a look at it and see if we can add it to the list, man.
Sure.
As well. But the book club and the reading is definitely, I believe, one of the ways that we can connect, one of the ways that we can make it better. I believe in the community, because the more educated we are, the more we emphasize how we read, what we read, how we read, for the young men in our community, I think can have a great impact in what we do. So I'll leave that with that about the book club review. It's the first Saturday of each month, except for July and August, correct, Rashad? July.
That is correct. So, and you don't also have to read the book to participate. We welcome folks that may not have, read the book, because we're going to touch on or expound upon some of the things that are discussed in the book. And also some folks come with real world experience, and that real world experience coupled with some of the points in the book, often drives the conversation and helps folks to understand or drive home some of the points of the books that we read.
Yeah, so one of the objectives of the book club is, so when you come to a session, you don't necessarily need to have read the book. The goal is to encourage you to want to read the book. Like one of the books that I think is brilliant is the Anti-Racist book, and then the 50 Cent book and the Rick Ross book. Now, I have to say, those are books I was like, I don't know if I want to read it, right?
Surprised you didn't.
I'm like, really, man, Rick Ross, like, really reading a Rick Ross book, but I'm like, I'm reading it again, and that's part of the heat of the organization, in my opinion, where iron sharpens iron. So even though I was on the fence on it, the process is listen to your brothers. And that's exactly what I did. And I got a lot of great information out of it.
Yeah, and for those that may not necessarily want the physical books, you can actually listen to some of them are on audio as well. If you look them up, because I've grabbed a couple of them that I've listened to on audio book. And that's a little easy. Sometimes it might be a little easier, a little faster to listen to it than to actually read it. But anyway, the most important thing, as Simon said, is the information that you can gain from the books that we are reading, and that dialogue, from it, because what you may not see or get from the book might be what somebody else got from it, and vice versa, where you might have not, oh yeah, I didn't think about it that way. It gives you a different perspective, and even may, as Hassan, prompt you to want and go and read the book. But the main thing is about reading or listening to the books, which is what we really want to encourage.
I'm gonna do a shameless plug, right?
No.
If anybody knows Milan Butler, right, tell him he needs to read Think Big, Act Small. Because there's a nugget in that book that will take IBA to a totally different level. There's one nugget in that book that would do that. So the next person that sees him, tell him to read that book. Think Big, Act Small.
Okay, cool. Think Big, Act Small. Okay. I gotta check it out. I like that. I like the title. So tonight we're gonna start off with our main speaker, and I'm gonna let him give the introduction about himself. Tell us a little about who he is. He can go a little more in depth into that. But then when I was thinking about the topic and what we were doing, this brother has, I thought, some solutions. Him and Brother David, they were kind of like the two people that I really thought about that would be great to be able to come and have this conversation with, to be able to come and talk about the things that they have going on, the things that they're doing, because they are real solutions to what I believe, what is going on and everything like that. So, Brother Cliff, I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you talk a little bit about you and the program that you have going on, and then, of course, the meetings that you have as well.
Oh, wow. All right. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone here. I'm going to try not to talk an awful lot about myself, because number one, because all the stuff I did as far as when I went to school, when I went to college, all the things that I studied, in many ways, those things that I studied only have anything to do with whatever it is that I'm doing now, simply by virtue of the fact that, okay, I picked something up here, I learned a little something about this, a little something about that. I'm not as easily bamboozled by some things, but what I actually studied in school, I didn't directly put into any use. And in many ways, I find that that is the case with a lot of us, where, as I often say, our degrees are unimportant. And in many ways, even a lot of our past work is unimportant. because our enemies don't fear what we did. They don't fear what we studied. They fear what we will do. That's what they're concerned about. Or to quote a comic book character whose picture I don't have, but the quote was, "It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan." That was Bane from the third Batman movie. And the point that he was making there was that his identity was not the important thing. The important thing was what his plan was, what he was moving forward with from that point forward. Now, what he was moving forward with there was extremely destructive, but it still represented the fact that what our enemies fear is not what we have done, not what we've studied, but what we're going to do. A brief intro. I am the Maryland State Facilitator for an organization called the 6th Region Diaspora Caucus, or SRDC for short. And the organization's mission is to bring together the grassroots community, organize and lift up the grassroots community's voice on the local, national, and global level. That includes holding local Pan-African town hall meetings, building a Pan-African agenda for that locality, that community, not me, not other people in the organization, but the community that comes to the meeting, decides who they want to speak for them and what that Pan-African agenda is going to be. Those local communities come together with other local communities across the United States, and we don't have nearly as many as we need. And then in turn, that United States group merges or gathers together with similar organizations in Canada, Central America, hopefully one day South America, the Caribbean, Europe, hopefully one day Asia, Middle East, and actually the African continent. And the idea there is to build not only local organization, but also regional organization and diaspora-wide organization, so that we can come together, build unity among African people around the world, and also put pressure on global organizations like the African Union, who've been playing slow ball with a lot of things they said they were going to do back in 2003. The United Nations, who loves to hold consultations and conferences and wring their hands, but don't often get an awful lot done. And even our home countries, whose policies often work against the interests of African people. So that's basically what the organization is working on doing. As a matter of fact, SRDC is getting together with other organizations from May 24th to May 28th in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to try to bring some of those global Pan-African organizations together on one accord, not necessarily one voice, but several different voices singing in harmony is what I like to call it. But also because Addis Ababa is the home of the African Union's headquarters, and to put pressure on the African Union to make good on some of the promises, as I said, they made back in 2003. I also used to write a newsletter called Kuumba Report from 1997 to 2011, and now it's a website, and it has the imaginative title KuumbaReport.com. And so that's basically what it is that I do and that SRDC does. Now, looking at our concept here of, to quote Dr. King, to misquote him slightly, moving from chaos to community, because he wrote a book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos to Community. Moving from chaos to community, I've taken a little bit of time and visited the Black Professional Men website, and I've seen a number of the programs that Black Professional Men does, in particular the scholarships, the mentoring, the financial literacy, which our people seriously need these days, and the health and healing workshops, a whole lot of excellent programs that are going on. The one thing to remember, though, is that those programs don't exist in a vacuum. And too many organizations, not necessarily this one, but too many of our organizations proceed as though their missions do exist in a vacuum. The fact of the matter is, if we want our community to come together, if we want our community to heal the rifts between them and to come together and to unify, then we as organizers and activists have to do it also. We have to set an example for them. And in not enough cases has that happened. So if we want to make that happen, that would require greater communication in general and outreach from our organizations to other organizations, especially those that have markedly different ideas. Artists, spiritual leaders, revolutionary Pan-Africanists, educators, elders, seniors, street corner activists, we need them all, especially if we want to move out of the chaos we currently find ourselves in. Now, it can be a painful process because a lot of the times different groups, they've been turned against each other, either on cultural, political grounds. And we in SRDC found out about that some time ago. We knew when we were founded in 2006 that the plan that we had to bring our communities together, as hold those town halls, take that local, national, and global voice and lift it up. We knew we couldn't do it by ourselves because we weren't big enough. We didn't have enough people. We didn't have enough muscle to go out there and to lift up the community all by ourselves. We needed to link with others, and some of whom may not even share our perspective, but who should at least recognize our common struggle. Because the struggle we face is multifaceted. We got to deal with environmental racism, cultural appropriation and weaponization, political marginalization and instability, mass incarceration, poor disaster response, police brutality, and a whole lot of other things. Even then, in 2006, when we were founded, we knew we needed a coalition of some kind. And we actually worked to build one in 2008. But there were divisions and chaos that had been imposed already, had been encouraged and exploited in our own community. And a lot of that sabotaged our efforts back then. Some organizations and activists just gave up because it was too hard or it was too painful. Or they had to deal with other organizations' suspicions and questions about them. People who disbelieved in each other, either because of misconceptions, sometimes because they had ulterior motives. Some of them were opportunists. The fact is, our enemies have tried to keep us from unifying and implementing our plans for liberation from the beginning, from Willie Lynch, whether he existed or not, to J. Edgar Hoover, from the Ma'afa, the transatlantic slave trade, to COINTELPRO and beyond. They don't necessarily have Willie Lynch to hit us over the head with, not in person anymore, because too many of us have come to the conclusion that that was essentially a myth that was created to brainwash us. And COINTELPRO is not what it used to be, but they have other modern day techniques basically to promote mindless polarization among our people. We've gotten used to playing the zero-sum game. And you see it whenever somebody starts to talk about COVID, or whenever somebody starts to talk about President Obama. There's always this one side versus the other side. And the stereotypes abound there. The Black left, for example, they're all considered, we think that they're communists who hate America and hate freedom, and they're stooges for Putin and Russia. Black business people who operate in the capitalist system that we have to live under are often considered by the Black left to be just a Black bourgeoisie who are obsessed with joining the elite. So they kowtow to white reactionaries and neoliberals seeking the trinkets of representation and a seat at the table of white supremacy at the expense of their less fortunate sisters and brothers. And this is just the perception that a lot of people seem to have on one side or the other. You can even see it in terms of how we look at the Obama presidency. Was he a shining example of Black excellence, presidential class, and intellect, contrasted with Nixon's criminality, Carter's occasional bungles, Reagan's war of drugs, George H.W. Bush's Iraq War I, Clinton's crime bill and philandering, George W. Bush's bumpkinism, surveillance in Iraq War II, and Trump's incompetence, racism, sexism, xenophobia, and criminality? Or did we see President Obama as a cynical example of respectability politics that hid a feeble response to climate change, continued disregard of the World Conference Against Racism because he didn't send a delegation there either, increased drone strikes, increased surveillance, and a criminal war on Libya that reduced one of the world's most literate countries to a basket case and led to the arming of ISIL in Syria and Boko Haram in northeastern Nigeria. And an assistant secretary of state for Africa told me that. So that's not even rumor. That's something that we absolutely know for a fact, that that's where those weapons that Boko Haram and ISIL got.
This is about the conflict resolution in the community.
It's about the conflict that exists in our minds and our hearts toward each other, depending on where we are in the political spectrum as organizers and activists. So we have been turned against each other, and we have been given these ideas as to not only what our leaders are about, but also about what our different organizers are about. And quite frankly, almost all of those characterizations are unfair in one way or another. Our Black left organizations are not communist organizations that want to bring down America and want to bring down good and decent people. Our Black business people are not just folks who are lining up to get crumbs at the white man's table. Unfortunately, that is the impression that has developed in too many of our organizations on one side or the other. So if you disagree with me on one side or the other of that particular argument, then the impression that is created there is that then, well, you're either a brainwashed anti-American communist stooge and a possible terrorist, or you're a bought-off neoliberal race traitor and possible agent provocateur, depending on which part of that last analysis I just threw out there you disagree with. And
well,
this
Brother Cliff,
this is what's created in us.
I want to bring it down to what we started off with. I mean, because I don't want to broaden the
right
scope of what we're talking about, but to have it on the local level where we're talking about right here in Baltimore, in Baltimore City. That's what we want to kind of hone in on, and we want to talk about the great things that you're doing here in the city, the program that you're doing that's dealing with the issues that we have here in the city.
Well, the fact of the matter is that even those things exist right here in Baltimore City. You have organizations from all of these different perspectives right here in Baltimore City, from Black professional men to Black men unifying Black men, to Pan-African Liberation Movement, to Ujima People's Progress Party, to Working, Organizing, Making a Nation. So we have right here in Baltimore City the full spectrum of all of these different kinds of perspectives and mindsets. And the key to me is to be able to get us out of the situation where we're all running to our little corners, refusing to listen to each other, and running to our own echo chambers to reinforce the opinions we have about ourselves and about other organizations. And in order to do that, we have to be able to find a way to reach out to those different organizations that, again, don't think the same way we do. Maryland Council of Elders, All African People's Revolutionary Party on one side, and then more mainstream organizations, the community organizations, the business organizations, Kyoba, IBA, and so on the other. Too often they don't talk to each other, and they need to start talking to each other and set that example.
And that's what I
for our
want to get
communities.
To. That's what I want to get to. How do we create this ecosystem? Because this has been a big thing. How do we create this ecosystem between what one part of the community may have versus the other? How do we connect, as Dr. George Fraser says, how do we connect those dots to be able to, so that we can work together to say, hey, and I always use this example from the Bible about Nehemiah was charged or assigned to build the wall.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't build the wall himself.
Right.
And the wall didn't go up until the people had a mind to build it. Everybody understood what their part was in building the wall. Hey, I build my part of the wall here. This was it. How do we get to there? How do we get those folks and even what we watched on, you know, the video that I showed? How do we get us to build that wall?
Everybody has to bring a brick for that wall. The wall's not complete until everyone brings their bricks to build that wall. And
so
I think,
you know, I think that's a great concept, right? And one of the things that I find is that, like, we'll tell people you start a business, but we don't give them the first 3 steps of how to do that. And, you know, this just reminds me, as a kid, my mom would tell me you need to use elbow grease. And so I'm 6 years old and I'm looking under the counter for elbow grease so I can put it on whatever I need to put it on so I can get the thing open. And, you know, and so I didn't know what I didn't know. And a lot of times in our community, they don't know what they don't know. Mainly could be that it could be that they may not have traveled as much as other people and experienced things as much as other people, whereas that everything that they're witnessing is their normal. And so they don't see anything wrong with it. So I feel like it's critical of us, organizations like ours, to provide that blueprint, at least 3 steps, to say this is how you can get started to get that brick. Because some people will come with just a brick but don't have no mortar, and then what you gonna do with it? Then they may have the brick and mortar but don't have the toe to smooth the cement, right? And so you need all these tools to help build the wall as well. If we just say bring a brick, they may be literally just bring bricks and understanding why this wall is so easy to be pushed over.
Well, the other thing too is that, you need all of those things. Some people may have bricks, but they don't know how to make mortar. Some people may be experts at mixing the mortar so that it's good and strong. Other people may be good with the tools to lay it down. Other people may know how to design it and put it all together. But the point there is that everyone, there's an old saying, it's actually comes from the Panthers, I believe. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And as you said just a minute ago, there are many cases where we don't know what we don't know. And none of us knows everything. And I think the first step, at least, is internal. And that is to get away from what I consider to be the four of, maybe not the four, but 4 of the most dangerous words in organizing. I have the answer. Because when you think you have the answer, that means you think you know everything. And as a result, then you don't have to listen to anyone else. So as a result, you'll have people saying, well, it's all about the economy, or it's all about culture, or it's all about building political power, or a revolution is the only solution. And as I see it, they're all right, but they're all wrong. They all have a major part of the answer, but none of them have all of it. Because whenever you establish yourself in one place, you're attacked somewhere else. If the economics alone could do it, Black Wall Street would still be here. If political organizing was all you needed, Wilmington, North Carolina would still be a progressive fusion government. If revolution really was the only solution, the Black Panther Party would never have been destroyed. So the first thing to me is for us to realize that we don't know everything, and that We need each other. There's an interdependence that we have to acknowledge and that we have to embrace. And then once we embrace that interdependence, once we realize we don't know everything, once we recognize that we have to communicate, talk with, work with, build with people who don't necessarily think the same way we do, then it'll be a lot easier, I think, for us to start building the solutions that we're trying to build. It kind of brings me to what it is that we're trying to build here in the state of Maryland. And it's something that I hope that we can rekindle on the global level, because like I said earlier, it had been tried before. The idea is to build what we're calling tentatively the Maryland Pan-African Cooperative Coalition. I call it a cooperative coalition and not a united front, mainly because of the fact that every time I've seen an organization, a group of organizations come together and declare themselves a united front, it's usually disunited within a week. So I'm not getting that far ahead of myself or ourselves and saying we have a united front, that we've got it all together. We're building a cooperative coalition. And what we are doing is we're making a point to invite as many different kinds of organizations to come together in that coalition as possible. You may be able to, because I'm going back and forth from notes to, okay, my screen right now, I blocked myself out, and you can see this particular logo or design. And I've been calling that design spokes of the wheel, because if you take a look at it, you've got 12 different symbols arrayed around the continent of Africa, and then their missions to reach that central plan of a united, prosperous, free Africa at peace with itself and the world represent what I'm calling spokes. If you just step back from it and take a look at it, it looks like a spoked wheel. And those spokes that are on there represent 12 specific groups, and there are more than 12, but I could only think of 12 at the time. Artists, grassroots activists, spiritual leaders, educators and researchers, lawyers, media, political organizers, science, health, and technology, businesses, international Pan-African organizers, prison activists, and revolutionary Pan-Africanists, and even Black nationalists are in there too. And the idea is for us to find a way to bring all of those different types of organizations together in one room. Organizations in each of those disciplines say over and over and over and over and over again that we have to unify as a people. But the thing that always made me scratch my head was that you have all these organizations say we must come together as a people, and yet they're not doing it. They're not coming together with each other. So to me, the first step is for the organizations that we have, and we have local examples of all of those right here in Baltimore, Maryland. And to get them to come together, sit around the table together and say, how can my work help you? How can, for instance, if we got lawyers, and we seem to have a dearth of Pan-African lawyers, unfortunately, but how can our lawyers, for example, help our businesses to establish themselves legally, stay out of trouble? And also those lawyers can help our revolutionary activists put on whatever protest activities they want to do whatever organizing they want to do, and prevent the authorities from harassing them, persecuting them, whatever. Our educators can offer historical lessons for us, because many of us have forgotten a lot of the lessons of history. We don't even know that a lot of the stuff we're going through now is stuff that we went through 50, 60 some odd years ago. I was just reading a Black Agenda document from Gary, Indiana, 1972. And you could read the current condition of Black people in America from that document from 1972. And people would think you're talking about yesterday, because things haven't changed enough. We haven't made enough progress. And yet we think we've made a lot of progress. We've been struggling against all these forces that have been trying to push us back. And the efforts of our activists, from our grassroots activists to our revolutionary activists to our businesses, they have kept us from falling further and further and further behind. But if we want to catch up and get back to the place where we need to, then we need to take all of these different types of organizations, bring them together, and allow them to be force multipliers to each other. And each of these different types of organizations that are on this particular diagram are capable of assisting each other, maybe not all of them at the same time, but in one way or another, they're capable of assisting each other in various projects, various issues, various difficulties that they have to face as organizers and activists. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to at first bring all these different groups and organizations together, get them in one place. Right now, it's in one Zoom chat room. And our next Zoom meeting is going to be on Wednesday, May 18th. That's a week from today at 7 p.m. And to get them discussing with each other, sharing each other's perspectives, sharing each other's ideas with each other, so that they can enrich each other. And so that some of the misconceptions that we have about each other can be dispelled. And then we can really start building unity and leave the chaos that exists within our organizations behind. And then that way present that kind of unified front to our community, so that our community will see it. Our community is not going to come together if the people that they see as being upstanding members or leaders in our community aren't themselves coming together. So our people are going to follow our example, just like a lot of our young brothers and sisters, when they listen to whether it's standard hip hop or gangster rap or trap or whatever, the messages in that get into their heads, and then they oftentimes will emulate what they see, what they hear, and what they're being told. And if we want to counteract that, then we have to be able to do and show those things that we want our people to be able to do themselves.
Absolutely. Brother, can you put the information in the chat there?
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned that too. And I appreciate you coming and speaking with us tonight and giving us, just a little bit. And I always like that the image, the logo or the imagery, like you said, that you have, because it is a representation of the community and what our community needs. And I have a 5-pillar thing that I always think about. The community is comprised of the family, government, education, business, and the church. Those are the 5 spokes, if you will, of the community. And the only way that our community becomes better is if we all collectively say, hey, the family has to do their part, the government has to do its part, the educational system has to do its part, we as businesses have to do our part, and then of course the church has to do its part. And when I promise you, there's not one community that we consider to be a strong community that does not have those spokes like you were talking about in place that are doing that, but those 5 pillars that I was talking about that don't have those strong suits in place and are doing something in each of those perspective areas and everything like that. So I appreciate you coming and give us the and talking with us about some plausible solutions that we need to have and we have to have, but it does start with the mindset.
And one last thing about this particular structure, the reason why it looks like it does, and it doesn't look like your standard organizational chart, is because a standard organizational chart has people at the top, people in the middle, and people at the bottom. The idea of this is that you don't pick one group that necessarily holds sway over all the others. If you sat all these people around a table in the arrangement that they're in right here, everybody can see each other. You can see each other, you can look in each other's eyes. Number one, no hidden agendas. Number two, if your objective is in the middle, I don't have to go through anyone else to get there. Everyone can make it to the center without knocking anyone else over, without making it look like Walmart on Black Friday, and without the kind of competition that often comes from a hierarchical design. But it's a planned design as opposed to just bringing a bunch of people together and sitting them in a room and saying organize, because then they will begin to fight and jockey for position. So the idea is to put them in a position where there are no bosses. Everyone has an equal voice at the table. And by the way, this is not my idea. This idea comes from, I didn't know it when at the time, but it does. It comes from Mary McLeod Bethune when she founded the National Council of Negro Women in 1935. I stumbled over a room in the National Museum of African American History and Culture where it showed the diagram of NCNW, and it had all the different organizations arrayed around the objective in what they called a spoked wheel alignment. So again, this is not my idea. This is her idea. And again, the idea is to try to get people on an even footing to work with each other cooperatively and not competitively, and to try to push that. That's where this particular logo comes from. What I'll do is I'll put my email address in the chat, and anyone who is interested in coming to the Zoom call next Friday, then just shoot me an email with your contact information, and then I'll make sure that you get the invite. I'll probably send the invite out probably over the coming weekend. And we're opening our arms up to everybody. Some people have said that they don't have the time. Some people have said it's not their cup of tea, and fine. If it's not what they want to do right now, then that's cool. If they decide later on that, yeah, maybe I do want to do it, provided we're still here, doors open. So we're not trying to push anybody out unless they show us they're spies. And I don't assume anyone is a spy. One thing I hate to do, I hate to call anyone an agent. Some people love to do that. That to me is another example of the polarization that has been put into our community in an effort to create chaos. So I'm not going to call someone an agent. I'm not going to call someone a spy. Let them prove it and show themselves to be that way, and then the rest of the activists and organizers will know how to deal with them. But but I will be sure to put that information in, and we definitely welcome Black professional men, anyone in this group, anyone that you know of who really is interested in trying to find a way to start to bring our organizers and activists together in a cooperative, positive way, so that they can not only find broad-ranging solutions to the problems that impact our community from a variety of directions, but also so that we can start to set that example for our community to follow.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we appreciate you taking time.
Yeah, you had to teach me those sound effects.
We appreciate you, and we'll have the information there for anyone that wants to next Wednesday, if you want to join the meeting. That's going to bring more information, where you can get more information about what they're doing and how they're creating solutions for what we're doing in and around our community. Now, as you all know, each month at the General Body meeting, we do our membership highlight. And this month, I reached out to Brother Minister Brian Broadley, and just in a brief thing that he was telling me about the things that he has going on, I was like, wow. Would you mind coming and just talking to us a little bit about what you have going on? Because what he's doing is part of what I believe are those solutions that we have. So I'm going to let him introduce himself to everybody that may not be familiar with him, but then also have him talk about just the great things that he's doing, his business the businesses that he has, but then also what he's doing in and around the community. Brother Minister, are you there, Brian?
Yeah, Leroy, I'm still here.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna pass the mic over to you and let you talk about just the great things that you have going on and the things that you're doing.
All right, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me tonight. We found out in 2019 that our kids in Baltimore City were having just a rough time academically. And then all of a sudden in 2020 of March, we hit pandemic. So we were already behind a learning curve. We were already with lack of environmental inclusion. And now our kids are stuck inside. For 18 months, these children tried to stay abreast academically. But unfortunately, we weren't ready in Baltimore City public school system. A lot of kids fell behind. And now that we are at 2022, finally getting the kids into school, we see so much of a huge information gap. And on top of that gap, we have a very strong lack of social emotional learning. Yes, they wanted to come back to be around friends and be around their favorite teachers, but 2 years without having any behavioral issues, any emotional connection is wreaking havoc on our youth from everything from third grade all the way up. So one of the things we decided to do was create this environmental program. I crafted it off of Heroes on the Water. We found out that veterans that were coming from overseas warfare were given the ability to be on the water, and it had such a calming, cathartic effect on veterans to deal with PTSD triggers, added in with some mental health therapy. The water was a huge, significant piece of dropping some of that anxiety and panic attacks in veterans. So my thought was go visit, come back, bring the information, and see how I could put my pastime passion, which was fishing, and include that inside of a water program that would give these kids that live in the Port of Baltimore that never get access on the water, give them that. And let's see what happens. Well, we won a grant from DNR that was pretty sizable, and it allowed us to go after minorities, specifically Hispanics. But what we learned in hindsight, it takes a lot of time to create relationships with the Latino community based upon distrust. If you think African Americans have issues in society, look from the lens of a Hispanic Latino individual, and they're so threatened and intimidated by anything government, anything social. It just puts them at a scare factor. So it took us time to get that far. But in 2021, this grant said we needed to bring 40 people to the water, give them information that would help them relax, learn something about an environmental program, and give them activities that they had never seen before. We started with kayaks. Most of our kids, we found out, live in Baltimore, don't know how to swim. So the fear factor of water is unbelievable. It's uncharted. So we found out that 1 out of 10 kids was actually comfortable with the water. 1 out of 10 might know how to swim, but not good enough to save his life. So that meant because the pools were closed, we didn't have access to teach kids swimming. Now I've got to put them on kayaks, but I've got to stress the importance of always wearing your life preserver. Reluctantly, they got on the water. They wanted to get home, they had to get on the water. Once they got to the water, it's so funny about our kids. They complained, they tantrums, ran back and forth on land. I just ain't doing it. And once everybody got on the water and they played and paddled and got everybody wet, the question was, when can we come back? In less than 2 hours, we changed 20 kids' lives that had never been on the water to, all I want to do is come back, Minister Brian. What do I need to do? Those 40 kids that we needed to expose, we far exceeded that number. We hit 534. We were supposed to bring 20 parents on board. We hit 219 of parents. We were able to make 65 trips on the water with parents and kids throughout Maryland and other states to learn how to fish for different fish. We were able to give them consumption of harvest, which means they were able to bring fresh fish that you would see at your supermarket for $8.99 a pound. They were bringing 100 pounds of fish fresh back from catching. They were floored with the possibility of understanding I can make dinner and all I need is to learn how to grow some vegetables, which they learned how to do as well. We taught them hydroponics. You don't need land, you just need water to grow vegetables. And they grew fruits and vegetables in a farm stand and they harvested. I showed them how to cook. We showed them how to clean the fish. We showed them how to fillet the fish. They learned so much last year. It was amazing. And now everybody wants to come back into this program, which made me one day while we were on the water, look to the sky and see the fact that we had airplanes coming out of the airport down at Eastern Avenue, at Martin's Airport. And it made me think, how can I get these kids in the air? We've conquered water. Now my next goal is to get air. So we're creating programs that change the trajectory of these kids to open up doors so that they can have, nothing's wrong with Chick-fil-A, but I'd rather you get into national resources so that you can change the environment. Because as adults, we messed this thing up. We took money out of these kids from the POW programs. We shifted Baltimore money all over the state and left these kids out. And as adults, that's part of the reason, as your past speaker was speaking, it's not the kids. The fault lies on us as adults. We dropped the ball on them, whether it was from the huge drug population that came in with the opioid crisis, but we dropped the ball on these kids, and we won't sit comfortable until we make amends for these children that are lost, socially deprived, emotionally challenged, don't have love in their life, or maybe not even a parent to be there to see their first basketball game or their first academic accolade. We dropped the ball. So my goal in my service is to make sure these kids have access to the water and learn how to fly. I want to turn somebody into a pilot. So when they get on this plane to have a discovery flight, they can one day look back and say, Minister Bryan showed me I could be that pilot. The starting salary for a minority pilot is $120,000 at 1,500 hours. That's the starting salary. I've been in contact with the first Black minority pilot of Southwest Airlines. He was the first pilot that was African American. And he said, what you're doing is amazing. I had to learn from a crop duster back in Virginia is how I learned how to fly. But if you can give these kids an opportunity to be where I'm retiring at 76, they'll have a lifetime of traveling the world without being military. I don't want to put our kids into certain arenas where you still feel indebted as a servitude. That's not what I want, and I have no offense against military. I think they put their lives on the line so we can have our liberties and our freedoms. But I also want our kids to have choices and options, Leroy. I want our kids to be able to say, we had an opportunity to seldom get, and now we're able to explore those resources, come back and share it with the next generation. And that's what we made them do. We made the older kids come back to the 5th and the 8th graders and explain, this is how you're going to learn how to fish. This is how you're going to learn how to read radar, sonar, chirp. Because our U.S. Navy are finding out that they don't have enough minorities in that field of study to do oceanography, to track the bottom of the ocean and go through all the sonar effects. So we're trying to give them some entry-level positions. That's where we've been. That's where we're going. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for assistance. Any fishermen that I got out there is listening, feel free to reach out to me. We always are doing these urban fishing clinics where we bring all of this information, kayaks, fishing rods to land at different schools and let them see what fishing looks like from a land base. From those interests, we then take them to the water and let them discover. Maryland has so many private islands that you can't get to unless you're by boat. And now that we've got access to boats and kayaks, I want these kids to see places they normally can't get to. Thank you for the time to give me to share and present. Amen.
No, that's powerful, Minister Boyle, because exposure to something different is, I think, certainly a solution to all of the bad thing. I like a lot of the bad things that are going on with our youth and our young adults, and what you're doing, what you just talked about, not just the that's itself, but what Kendrick is doing with with the DJing, through Matthew DJing and everything like that. Those are different ways of solving the problem, and then getting them acclimated to or introduced to aviation. That is powerful, I think, because it's something that's not readily talked about, and I'm sure you can attest to that. That, like you said, with the one pilot that told that wasn't even learn a wholly different way. But if these, I believe honestly, if these kids are introduced to something different, and we expose them and move them outside of the everyday ordinary things that they might see on their streets or in their neighborhoods, those negative aspects of it, it kind of like you said, it opens their minds to the possibilities. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because you said, now, did you have this in you work with certain schools to do the fishing and the aviation?
Right now, the fishing is in 5 schools on the west side. We just left South Baltimore, Curtis Bay, and Brooklyn. So right now we're in Arlington, Pimlico, Cross Country, Creative City, and we're in Park Heights Academy Elementary School. So we've got 5 schools now that we're doing a fishing program out of, on top of community residents. So that's where we are. We're trying to solicit to become vendors for Baltimore County, Princess George, Cecil, and Rockville, Montgomery.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind me asking.
Thanks, Kendrick.
Mr. Boyd, do they have to be a part of those schools in order to be able to be in the program that you have? Or how can someone connect with you?
Well, right now until June, yes. But once we get past June, then we'll open enrollment and we'll make it more private for parents to subsidize whatever that cost factor may be at that time. But just like we were at Collegiate for Boys School, Edwin School, we heard a cry from parents and grandparents taking care of their children that the boys need some structure. And Rodney, me, Kendra, and Kendra are all trying to put something together so that we can supply resources to this school that's crying out for help. It's so many children that need any and all of our programs out here. It's just part of navigating the tunnel is what's hard. Many nonprofits don't know how to connect with schools, don't know how to go through the procurement process, don't know how to be registered to be a vendor. So my goal was to pioneer this, to come back and explain to people, now we set up a pipeline, what's the next program we can put in that can be utilized?
No, I love that. I think that it's just absolutely phenomenal. Did anyone have any questions for Brother Boardley? I don't know if, or even Kendrick, because I know you all's programs are just in the schools now, and y'all talk about the impact that they're having on the schools and the neighborhoods that you all are a part of.
Well, one of the questions I had for you, Minister Brian Boyle, is one of the things I'm working on right now, as you saw, video content, and I don't want to have to tell people. And so I went to the school last week where Matthew Music is in Montgomery County, and I just asked for testimonials from the principal, vice principal, the teachers, everybody. Organic. If you hate it, tell me. Like, I want organic. I don't want to pay nobody to say nothing. I want you to tell me you're true from the heart. And that was priceless. Like, honestly, I mean, I had the security guard say that it lowered violence in the school. And I didn't even think of that as a measurable goal.
Outcome, yeah.
As an outcome that we can use for data. And so my question to Brian Boyley is, where are you with without having to say a word? Click this link or share this video. Do you have that in place that can make it easy for us to kind of share what you're doing without us having to be you and talk about what you're doing? And I'm asking this because I'm preaching to myself to finish what I've been working on, so we can all do the same for each other, so we don't have to, learn the script, because
right.
So
right. So yes,
so my question was that
we do have a digital piece, and that's the funny part about nonprofits. It constantly evolves, Kendrick. What I got now, next year, yeah, it's okay, but it needs to be revamped over again.
Yep.
So
here.
we've got something that's doable. And what I learned from the video side of it, it's not selling the activity. It's about selling the experience, because that's what is the transfer of emotions.
Well, like Mr. President always says, it's actually about exposing the problem you solve. And the problem in our communities are exposure gaps. So the problem that you solve is saying, hey, I want to expose our students. Once someone is exposed, they know. We just said on this call, people don't know what they don't know. So when they're exposed, so exposure gaps to me is one of the biggest problems you solve. And I think that video needs to clearly depict those problems. I see Mr. President jumped on the.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and you said something really big right there, Kendrick, about the exposure gap, and I think that's true. I think the more exposure that the organizations get, and the more exposure that the students get to things like what Brother Bully is doing, I think that gives parents more to be able to look to, which I think it will enable the community to actually say, wow, here's some things that we can tap into that are going to make the community stronger. I don't know.
A quick question. I'm sorry. Wait a minute, quick question, because you brought up another question. So Minister Brian Boyley, is your business model only B2B, or do you have a B2C model too? Meaning, are you only dealing with the organizations that bring you in for programming, or the businesses or the schools that bring you in, or are you actually looking to do this from a B2C model where the customer is calling you, say, hey, I want my child somewhere?
Right, in your program. Right.
We thought about that, but because of our economical place dealing with Baltimore City, and unfortunately where we are with our individual consumers, we decided to do more B2B and come in on a back way to deal with serving youth. Now, that presents a good question, especially with Edwin School. We've got parents that want to be their kids are part of this program. So now we've got to think through, how can we make this B2C and make it feasible where it's not a cost factor for us taking a loss, but we're able
that was my point.
We're able to extend another way to subsidize the cost factor, because getting on the water isn't cheap at all. And now the gas for a boat is $5.67 a gallon. It starts to add up very quickly.
Absolutely. So I just want to say that parents are stakeholders. I don't see you focusing your model on B2C, but when Dr. Leroy mentioned his last statement, made me say, wait a minute, is he trying to get the parents, customer, because the parents are only the stakeholders, have the voice to make these principals spend the budget that they already have anyway.
Gotcha.
Correct.
But can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it more important of who you teach or that your audience get taught?
On the joking side of Son, I never like your questions. But seriously, I think it's more important the first one.
Okay. Because I heard a huge pain point that you have, right? And that pain point is finding a mechanism to provide the funding to be on the water. And I feel that if you was to focus on Anne Arundel and Howard County as paid participants, they would be willing to pay at a rate that would allow you to grant Baltimore the youth to participate in that program.
Gotcha. So find a higher paying and then use some of that money to take care of the subsidized individuals that may not be able to afford it.
Yes.
Also look to add a B to G to your model, because I feel like the government would have some funding for either outreach for the state of Maryland or some type of programs that they already are funding that you can kind of add. I love what Mr. Cliff had in his background, because we're not reintegrating the wheel. The wheel is there. We just add the spoke. Sometimes your spoke can be a partnership with the spoke that he already got there. So I mean, I just love this whole meeting because we collect these thoughts, and so none of us need to reinvent the wheel, because the Most High has been here and blessed us with everything we need now. And so it's just all about the resource inventory, so that we can be strategic and intentional about bringing these things together.
Agree, and that's fine. Go ahead, Hassan.
No. I was just going to say this. No, go ahead, Hassan. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that you may want to also consider your customers' why, or your consumers' why. If you have affluent consumers who want to just do it because it's something cool for their kids, or that they want to be able to have it on their resume for them to be able to get into a better college, then yes, they're not going to look at the price of it. And so you're able to now charge it twice as what you think it is, but it still may be at value, the right value for them. And that value will allow you to be able to do a 2-for-1.
This has just been mind blowing. But I know we're kind of behind time, but I'm going to say this, and then we're going to move to our community partner, because I want to get him in. But we have everything we need in order to be able to do what it is that we need to do. Brother Cliff spoke that emblem that's back there. That's everything that we need is right here. We have it here. We're talking about the very things that we know, these ideas that we have, where we can connect and use what we can use in order to be able to accomplish what it is that we're talking about. So, Mr. Brian, thank you so much. You're doing that is just absolutely phenomenal. And exposing these young men to something that they don't readily see or would be able to do. And I keep saying they'll broaden their minds. It'll expose them to the other things that they can do and see, not just the fishing, but the aviation. That stuff, like you said, that stuff costs, and it's about finding that revenue source, that particular kind of capital that can take care of that will be able to fund it for you. I mean, Hassan gave a great idea about using other counties and other parents that are affluent, that can do it. And then it subsidizes what we want to do here in the city. That's phenomenal.
There's also the idea of perhaps even doing some things as a benefit. I mean, heck, white folks been doing it with Farm Aid for God knows how long. We've got locations, places like Arch Social Club, of which I'm a member, where we might be able, once it's got itself back up on its feet and remodeled and all that sort of thing, and its capacity is where it can really do something, where that's a venue that might be available to do some things. But Brother Kendrick with what he does with the music, me with what I do with the music, we could put some events on at Arch Social Club. And this is, I haven't even talked to them about this, but put some events on and set it up in such a way that when people come in and they attend these events, and then what they submit to us, what they pay to get in, or whatever donations they put in, then those donations can go to some really worthy community-centered projects just like this one. And I can't think of it off the top of my head, a worthier project to put on a benefit for than something like this that will open our youth's and our children's eyes up to new horizons and avenues like this. And again, that's an example of how one spoke can help another.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Now let's bring in, I want to bring in our other spoke from the community, and that's none other than Brother David Murphy. For y'all that don't know him, I mean, he's in the community, he's about the community. And I am appreciative of everything that he has allowed me to do and being a part of what he does. And what the National Black Unity newspaper does for the community, and not just here in our community, but on a global level as well. So, Brother David, I'm gonna pass the mic over to you and let you talk about the National Black Unity News and what we have going on.
Okay, I appreciate that. And that matter of fact, I appreciate this whole conversation because, like I say, information, if you use it properly, can benefit so many. And like I said, I was not aware of the program, Brother just spoke about. I was aware of what, Brother Cliff is doing. See, like I say, now my mind has been expanded. But, getting back to your original subject that you invited me on was, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 70, I'll be 71 this year. And, when I came up in our community, what's going on in these streets today is not like what I saw when I was coming up. And we was building things. We was captain of industry. We was breaking down doors. We was organizing in the 50s and in the 60s. And then all of a sudden, one of the main components hit our community was drugs. Now we all know about racism that always has been with us. We also know that systematically, they start taking all types of programs out to communities. We had back in the day, if you acted up in our communities as a young man or young woman, they would send you not off to the military, but they would send you off to Job Corps. But you learned to trade. Even when I was a young man, I acted up. They sent me to school. They paid me to go to school then. And we had so many people come back with these workable trades. But when you open up this program and you were showing the shootings that took place, that just is commonplace now. People don't even blink an eye now because, we see it every day now. But we got comfortable in our own misery. And, but I have to remind people, and even the police chief and everybody's going to tell me these are monsters. They are this and they are that. And you know who they are? They are our children, our babies. And whether we want to own up to it or not, and a lot of us in my age bracket, we helped create this. Now, I'm not taking the blame or putting the blame on us because, like I said, there's so many outside sources that's playing a major part in this. And I'm in the media. Yes, I do the National Black Unity News, and I'm in media, and media is a powerful, powerful tool. And I can use this medium just like so many of them use it for, for good or for bad. Like someone said earlier, you can take our music as part of media and look at the subliminal messages that is going forth. Look at how it's altering people's minds and their mindsets. And then you have, like I say, the internet, which our young people have so much privy to and so much information on there that's distorting their mind. You got so many different things coming in from so many different ways, and a confused mind really don't do too much. But since we know that we up against all of these things are coming down, from every angle that we can think of, from the school systems. When I was coming up, we had rec time. We even had music in school then. Even as little Timmy play on little clicks of tambourines and everything, we just, but that opened up a lot of musicians back in the day. That's how they got started. Yeah, but so a lot of little things that was taken from us, or we allowed it to get away from us, because we didn't put up too much of a fight to try to get it back. And now you see the results of a lot of things. You see the results of drugs. You see the result of problems in our school systems, our political systems. And now we're at this stage in life, and we can't give up and we can't give in. Yes, Brother Cliff has showed you all types of organizations, that's not on a national or international, but right here in Baltimore, because I've been in some of those meetings. I have been in meetings with all sorts of people, and we doing like Black Professional Men, as I said before, I was around in the inception of it. Great brothers, doing great works. And y'all still are, the National Black Men Unifying Black Men. They doing great work, introducing people. We doing a lot of things. All of these organizations are doing great and wonderful work in their own particular areas. I did an interview with DJ Star 5, Brother Kendrick. Man, this brother, man, he's a tough man. I will put him up against anybody. Man, I'm talking about doing it. I'm serious. I'm amazed that, I sit where I sit, I see nothing, but I see on both sides of the track. I see what media portrays about us, but also see us, the real truth about us, the real us. And when you come, like somebody mentioned Hispanic, the brother just said, they have a lot of fears too. But did I tell you one time, some of you who know, I told you this story. I was invited in one day to this Asian organization here in Baltimore. Yes, and they was all from India, China, all the Asian nations and stuff. And they called David Murphy in there and said, you the man. You say, you the one can put a directory together. That's what I cut my teeth on, a directory in newspapers. And they said, yes, we want to start a Black directory. And of course, my antennas went up. And they went on to say that once we can get a Black directory together, maybe we can get some other things going. We can do this and that's the whole. I hope stop for a minute. I say, why do you want to do a Black? Why do you want me to do a Black directory for you? And they go, yeah, we're gonna give you the financial. They just throwing like the thing that they thought would attract me. But then one of the agents stood up, and he was truthful about the matter. He said, the reason we want to do a Black directory is, he said, because Black people are the only people who have more unity than any other group in this nation, in the world. He said, agents, we don't get along with each other. The Vietnamese don't get along with Chinese, or the Japanese don't get along with the Koreans. They just don't. They don't deal with one another. And the same thing with the Hispanic community. Mexicans don't want to be identified with other folks, and they don't, and vice versa. They'll fight you tooth and nail. You mix the names up, And they say, but Black people, through propaganda, have been told that we can't come together, we can't do this together, even though we have proved it. We have proven it in Jim Crow. We have proved through slavery. We have proved how we can come together. How do you think all these Black colleges came to be in such a time as those times? There had to be some serious unity and some serious opposition, right? But then again, you have to look at it again. They said, because we want to do this Black directory, he said, it's because of y'all. He said, because y'all the one paid the way for us. He said, y'all the one opened the door for minorities. Y'all did this and y'all did that. But you let media tell us we ain't about nothing. That's the power of propaganda. Like I tell y'all before, I can take any one of y'all, put you in the National Black Unity News and say you're the biggest crook in the world. You would have a difficult time soon. You may want to beat me up personally. But I call that to tell you I heard it through a reliable source. And that's it. And I'm clear. But then you would have been damaged. And your own family, some of your own family would turn on you. I thought something was wrong with him because I couldn't send print now. But see, that's the power. So do you know what they put in print about us? Do you see what the movies they put out about us? Do you hear the distortion, the lie they put out? And you can tell when somebody shoots somebody that, if there's a black person, the picture go up there in 2 seconds. Let it be somebody else. Or we can't, you don't see who they are. They don't expect the pictures and stuff, So media plays a powerful, powerful tool. But that's media. And that's, and we have people coming from all angles because they know the true fact is that if black people ever arose and come into their own, that we would change the trajectory of this whole entire world. They also know this as well.
Yeah, thank you.
If we only did one thing, even if we just stop spending with them, stop spending on ourselves, it would be an avalanche of people jumping out. The major Fortune 500 companies will crumble to their knees. Just by doing so, that's how much power, but they don't want you to know that. Why do you want people to think they could come from all over the world, set up shop in the hood, make a fortune, build their own school, their own shopping from the hood? But I'm saying this, the bottom line is this. Yes, I came up in the 50s, 60s. I lived in Emerson Village in 1961. We broke into this community with predominantly white. Now look at it now. It's more shooting. Like I say, shooting around out here almost every day in my community, almost every day. Not here, but people are dying right around me, right around the corner from me, up the street. Every day, once a week, somebody in the village is getting killed.
Let me ask you really quick.
Hey, gentlemen, we're gonna have to wrap it up a little bit.
But so let me just say this in close. Let me just say this in close. This is what I want to tell you all. Is this: we all know the problem situation, but the bottom line is this: David Murphy is one man. I have one idea. I cannot influence you to do anything. I can throw some things your way you may take interest into it. But the bottom is the man in the mirror. If each and every one of us do what we need to do for ourselves and for our communities and for our family, yes, our whole community will change. But each man, each woman has to stand up. And if those who don't stand up, you have to stand in the gap for them. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Brother David, can you put the information for the National Black Union News in the chat there for people to be able to go? Because if you haven't subscribed to the newspaper, you certainly want to do that. Because and he says, Brother David says this all the time, that the Black media only makes up less than 1% of the media. So those media outlets that we do have, we have to utilize them to be able to get the word out about a Black professional man, about what Brother Cliff and his organization is doing, about what DJ 5 Star is doing, about what Minister Brian is doing with those great things in the school, so that people know about it, because the more people that know about it, they can support it. To when we do say, hey, that there's, we're having an event at the Ark, or Brian, brother Minister Brian is having a fundraiser, wherever it may be, or anything like that, and he's talking about the program that he has, or DJ 5 Star talking about the program that he has, or Brother Cliff is talking about the organization that he has and what they're doing, we have the outlets to be able to bring those entities together. And the media is Malcolm X said, the media is the most powerful tool that we have. And we have to use it as a solution to ailing the negative stuff, to combat the negative stuff that we know that is going on, but we need to bring them, things like this, what Minister Brian is doing, what Brother Cliff is doing, what Black Professional Men is doing. When we do that, what Brother David is doing with the National Black Union, when we use all of those spokes in the wheel, we make our communities better. Mr. President, I'm gonna turn it over to you because I know we got to get out of here. So it's on you. The mic is yours, sir.
Thank you. So I feel like the conversation we had today was great. I think is needed. I think one of the key components that we really didn't touch on And I have to say, it's about the organizational chart, right? There's a business that was disturbed in our community that we don't talk about, and that's the family business. And in that organizational chart of the family, you know, you have the father, the mother, the extended parents, the extended family, and then you have the kids. And so there's a cycle with that has been broken and replaced. And it's that cycle that needs to be re-implemented to kind of remove the instrument that is causing the bleeding in our community. You know, all those kids that was 6 years old, 8 years old, that you call bad, you know, bad kids and stuff like that. You know, the Proverbs say, you know, a kid will burn down their community to feel the warmth. And that's what these kids are doing. And so when we wanted to mind our own business, when we saw those kids, you know, those parents not knowing how to parent those children, this is now the outcome. So I mean, kind of using Malcolm X's words, the chickens are coming home to roost. And so we're just feeling that. Now, it's true. The government impacted our community by shifting the funding. So they removed the funding for community things and shifted it to law enforcement. But the thing that I feel we should focus on is that we can live anywhere, but we elect to live in congested areas where there's too many people for the amount of resources that are available. And so if we was to disperse out and not live in so many congested areas, things would be better. And, you know, to kind of speak to, you know, one of the things that Minister Brian Borley is doing, but one of the main hurdles he has to overcome, no matter what level he get at, are the parents who haven't experienced anything allowing their kids to gain new experiences. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things. You know, we can tell parents, hey, this is the best things than sliced bread. And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. So in their mind, it doesn't exist because they don't know anything about it. You know, it's not in their everyday conversation. It's not in anything that they see day to day. It's not on their social media feed. It's not in their media that they look at. And so that's one of the things that we have to be able to do now with Black professional men. We've learned something. We've learned there is success with consistency. And so we've learned that if you want to get people to notice what you're doing, give them information that they can use at no cost. And so like when we do social media posts at high volume and we give out a lot of information, you know, indirectly, we get more people to come to our events. We get more people to become members. We get more people to make donations. And, you know, to give out a wealth of information is only that one nugget that somebody may need to get them over that hump. And they will always be grateful for that. And so those are the elements that I feel that when we talk about the solutions, the chaos and solutions, you know, if we teach our youth the significance of family, right? For so many times we've hurt our own community, not knowing it, but saying, you want to slow down. You're too young to get married. You know, you want to, you want to, sow your oats up, make sure you got all those things out your system. And then what does that mean? That means in their 20s, they're not thinking about being married. They're thinking about getting married in their 30s and 40s, where their counterparts are getting married in their 20s, getting real estate in their 20s, and then now they getting life insurance in their 20s because they have a family. So now in their 40s, they're borrowing off their life insurance.
Yep.
So I feel like it's those little things that we did that we didn't really understand the impact. And, everybody's thinking that, well, I'm the only one that's doing it. So, it doesn't matter. But we have 1 million people that are doing it. So I feel like that is one of the things that the crucial piece is teaching our young men and our young women the value of starting families in their 20s, the value of marriage, the value of that life plan, that life strategy, that life business, that family business in their 20s. There's no secret that you need a license to be married. You need a license to start a business also. You don't need a license to have a baby though. So, you should think about that. And so this next month is an exciting month, right? We get to celebrate, I want to say the 29th year of our scholarship program. All the details haven't been released yet, but it's going to be incredible. We're going to be able to bless, I want to say, approximately 5 youth with a contribution towards their scholarship. But however, we've already poured into these young men, right? We also have initiated our long-term scholarship program, as we have, I believe, 10th graders or 9th graders that have joined the program. So we're going to be able to pour into them for 4 years. And so it's an amazing thing for us to be able to go to being able to attach to the youth in their senior year, to be able to get them when they just get out of junior high and just get into high school, and they're plotting that plan of life. And we can now get them to chart that life, that family business. That's going to be one of the most critical elements that, for these young men. And we're just so excited for it. Also, we're going to have a lot of activities over the summer. There's things are opening back up, and I believe we're going to do some kind of welcome back tour of activities just to kind of welcome back everybody safely, of course, to let them know that we're here, we love you, and we're here to help you as you rebuild what has stumbled during this pandemic time frame. So I want to thank everybody that's listening from here and afar, and I thank Leroy and your team for putting together another dynamic meeting. And I yield to you, sir.
I'm just going to say this. Our solutions are threefold: connect, build, and grow. That's what we do together. We connect with each other, we build with each other, and we grow with each other. So I want to thank Brother Cliff. Thank you for joining us tonight, bringing, as you always do, that the great information that we need from just not just a local perspective, but a global perspective, and what we need to do.
Holistic.
Absolutely. And Brother David, thank you as well for joining us. I want to thank everybody. Brother Brian, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about everything that you have going on. We appreciate each and every one of y'all. We have our last meeting in June next month. We'll be right back here next month, second Wednesday. Don't forget the second Wednesday of each month, except for July and August. We will be off so we can prepare for the next season that's coming up. This is Black Professional Men. I'm Dr. Leroy McKenzie. We thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next month. Thanks a lot.
Take care of yourselves.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks. Appreciate it, man. It was a great presentation.
All right, thanks. Yes, sir. You did an excellent job. I appreciate you so much. I didn't the officer. Well, I guess he wasn't able to make it because I didn't see him come on. But no good. But no problem. Have a good evening.
You too, man. Later.